If you're a boys high school basketball player or a coach or a parent that's working with a boys basketball player, one of the best ways that you can improve on the court is by watching game film. In today's episode, I'm going to share one of the typical mistakes that are made specific to boys when watching game film for player improvement. And I'm going to share some tips on how to make the most out of your film study sessions. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So today we are talking about film study. And I'm talking about film study specific to boys high school basketball players. And you might say to yourself, wait a second, Coach Dave, you've never broken down things, kind of a difference between boys and girls. But the fact of the matter is that boys and girls are different. I have coached girls at every level, including the college level, young women in college, girls in high school, AAU, CYO. I've coached boys at different levels as well. And let me tell you something, there is a difference between the approach in general. There's a difference between the approach of boys and girls in the game of basketball. And there's a difference in the way boys and girls think, okay? Think about their own individual improvement and yes, how they think about studying game film and their approach to studying game film. So I'm gonna ask you to be open if you're a coach or a parent working with a boys basketball player, or if you're just a player that wants to use film in order to improve on the court, I'm gonna ask you to be open to thinking a little bit differently about watching game film for your own individual improvement. Now, we've talked about game film a lot, and there are a ton of different ways that you can use game film. You can use it to scout opponent players, individual players. You can use it to scout other teams. You can use it as a team to install offenses or defenses or any kind of schemes. You can use it as a team for scouting. You can use it as a team for, preparation, and analyzing your own performances and preparation. But today I'm talking specifically about you as an individual trying to improve your skill set on the court and using it in an individual player development mode. Okay? Now, before I get started, I always like to give you a free gift just for joining me. So if you haven't already downloaded the 8 intangible skills that coaches love to see in players, be sure and download this free checklist. It has some ways that you can work on each skill. And I make it available in a download. I put the link in the description below, or you can simply go to hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles, and I'll be sure to get you that free gift. Now, I'm talking specifically about boys basketball today. Next week, I'm going to talk about girls because there's some things when it comes to film study that are specific to girls and their approach and the way they think as well. But today, it's about boys. So I want to point out that this is in general, okay? These are not absolutes. So you might find yourself going, oh, that's not my approach, or that's not the way I think. Well, that's okay. I'm just talking in general, boys and their egos as players typically have this approach when it comes to game film. And the biggest mistake that boys high school basketball players make when watching game film is they focus on the wrong plays. They focus on highlight plays. They focus on what I like to call fan plays. Okay? They don't always focus on the right things. Now, boys are amazing because they have this incredible memory when it comes to game film. So when you're watching game film, when I'm watching game film and doing a film study session with a boys player, it typically goes something like this. I'm trying to point out some areas that they need to clean up of their game, some mistakes that they might have made on the court, some fundamentals I want to work on with them. And so I'm pointing out some of their mistakes. Well, boys have this amazing ability to kind of gloss over those mistakes because they have this memory about, in 3 plays, wait until you see the amazing steal I made, or wait until you see the shot I made, or wait until you see the dunk over the 2 players in the lane, or wait until you see, right? They're focused on these highlight plays, and they have this amazing memory to remember everything they did good and to really kind of ignore the bad stuff, okay? Like I said, in general, you may be somebody that beats yourself up a little bit more about your mistakes, okay? You may be focused on some different things. Maybe you've listened to this channel so much, you've got so much high IQ stuff in your brain that you know that those highlight plays are not the plays that coaches love to see. They're not the plays that get you necessarily more playing time, that earn trust with your coach, right? I can't tell you the amount of times that I've gotten highlight tapes from parents that are going to send these to college coaches, right? And they're full of these highlight plays, right? They're full of steals. That they get a steal on the wing, they go in for uncontested layups or dunks. They are full of shots, a lot of times contested shots that are all made shots. They're full of blocked shots on defense, how they, got up and blocked shots. They're full of these one-footed jumpers and, leaping in the lane and finishing over people in crowds off of 1 foot. Now, I'll tell you what, and I'll give this recommendation to these parents. I'll tell you what the coaches see, especially good, solid college coaches. They see the steal and they go, yeah, but that was a gamble. So is that player always gambling like that? Do they always open up on defense and gamble for that steal? Because let me tell you, if they don't get that steal, their whole defensive team is left in a disadvantage. Now it's 5-on-4 because they're out of the play, right? They can't guard against the drive because they've gambled, they've lunged, right? That's what a coach sees. Coach sees that contested shot and goes, couldn't they have worked for a better shot, right? Maybe that's not the greatest shot. That's not a good shot selection. Yeah, it goes in. See, boys basketball players tend to focus on great results, and they don't really focus on great plays. Great plays don't always have great results, right? So, coaches see the blocked shots, this reel of blocked shots, and they go, yeah, but are they always leaving their feet on defense? Maybe they should just be bothering that shot because, boy, it'd be easy at the college level to get them off the ground with a couple of pump fakes. And then, again, their defense is left in the lurch because they've left the ground. Or, in a lane, yeah, they're athletic enough in high school to get over those players and finish, but man, we're going to the college level. You got to go in strong. You got to be strong with the ball. You got to make a jump stop. You got to be crafty. You got to, really work because you can't just jump over everybody in this league. So I've seen it at the highlight, with the highlight reels, but for self-improvement, you've got to start focusing on the right things as well. So what you need to do if you're working with one of these players, or if you're just a player trying to improve with your film study, you need to focus on the plays and the fundamentals and the high IQ plays that will be successful in the long run, that have a greater percentage chance of being successful, okay? Now, if you're working with a boys basketball player, that's gonna be tough to do because like I said, we have egos. So we want that, we're focused on that highlight play. So what I suggest, here's a tip I suggest for eliminating this mistake. When you're working or watching your own individual game film, focus on all the mistakes. Talk about the mistakes and why they're not fundamental plays on your film. Then I want you to have clips of other players, especially if you're working with a boys basketball player. Have clips of other players making good, high IQ, fundamental plays, and be really focusing on how good those players are. Because the ego can work there too. Because us boys, we want to be better than everybody else, right? So if you're saying this is the right way to play and this player's so great, well, that just might be the edge you need to get them to, on the court, work on making habits out of fundamentals, work on making habits out of high IQ plays, right? So focus on, when you're working specifically with boys, it's best in general, not with every boy, but in general, it's best to focus on their mistakes and to point out why even the successful plays are mistakes. And focus on other players that are not them, on their good fundamental play and the good plays that you want them to have, okay? Because, like I said, boys have this great memory, and you've got to but they remember the wrong plays, and you got to somehow shift that mindset so that they can understand what a great play is and then work on it on the court for individual improvement. So by highlighting other players making high IQ plays and highlighting their mistakes, you kind of use their ego, you use that memory in order to get them to do what you want them to do. Or if you're a player, you're listening, you're like, okay, I know, yeah, you're right. I focused on those highlight plays. So that's what I got for you today. Hopefully that improves your film sessions. If it does, give me a like, give me a comment. Let me know your experience in watching game film for improving your game on the court. And until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.